Welcome back to Kind Regards the show. Today I want to talk a little bit about independence, I suppose, rather than a sort of psychological independence where our well-being is intact despite the fluctuations of, the inevitable fluctuations of external circumstances, which I've talked about in previous videos, taking refuge and the psychological independence episode. I want to talk here about something that was inspired by the Michael Pollan book that I just picked up. It's called Cooked. Michael Pollan, at least in my estimations, is a great writer, great nonfiction writer. He writes a lot about food, I suppose environmentalism, gardening, things like that, botany. And yeah, he's a ripping read. I recommend him. But the thing that I love about him is his connection to Wendell Berry, who is surely the most insightful writer I've ever read when speaking about agriculture and its relationship to society and economics and the spirit, the soul. Anyways, this quote, I won't do it verbatim, but what I will do is see if I can just tackle some of the ideas and then bring them into our lives. So the specialization of labor is something that was sort of we relate it to Adam Smith, right? It's better that this guy makes rice and gets really good at making rice, and this guy makes bok choy and gets really good at making bok choy. Then the expertness of each person gets better, and then they trade, and then it's cheaper for everyone, it's more beneficial for everyone. Henry Ford, transforms craftsmanship, well, not personally, on an individual level, but the assembly line dominates over craftsmanship. So instead of 3 craftsmen making a whole machine from scratch, they produce all the components and sort of do it all on their own. You get 55 guys, and each of them produce people, and each of them produce just one element of the machine. So one person just bends these pins all day. One person shaves off fractions of an inch of this thing, gets it to the correct specifications, puts that aside, does it again. Each person just does one job, they get really effective at it, and then together the 55 people make a way cheaper product, way more efficient product to produce than ever could be done if 55 people separately were building the entire machine. This is the sort of the rundown of specialization. And it, in some senses, is a beautiful thing, right? I don't have to make my own shirts and my shoes and this camera. Imagine a world where you were intimately involved in every single thing that you come in contact with, its construction and design. Obviously, if we were all making everything ourselves, how could we have set time aside to create, culture and beautiful ideas and beautiful art and all these things? It seems clear that the creation of staple grains and the one person being able to create heaps and heaps of food allowed for, the priestly class to emerge and the scholarly classes to emerge, and then, blah, 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 read the history books if you want more. And so in a sense, this is a beautiful thing, but there's a huge drawback, and that is that dependence on external factors, dependence on, massive agribusiness that produces all our food makes us helpless to produce our own food, right? If you only microwave meals, you do not know how to cook. And then all it takes is a broken microwave, and you have to order out all the time. And then all it takes is a global pandemic, and then you can't even do that. Food delivery is off limits, and then you have to eat 2-minute noodles all the time. That's a bad life. And so Pollan in his book is talking about cooking food and how we have done precisely that. We've outsourced so much of our cooking to corporations, a lot of us on a sort of varying scale. I've made my own pasta a couple times, but if I'm eating pasta, I'm buying it from the store. I'm not making my pasta from scratch, even though I might make the sauce from scratch, right? Some people only make stuff from scratch. I'm yet to meet one. But also I know some people who just don't cook. And so there's this big spectrum of sort of dependence on corporations when it comes to food. But it goes so much further than that, you know. In my own life, I'm really grateful to have a wife who knows how to sew, you know. So that, you know, I have tears in these pants that I'm wearing right now, and I don't have to throw out the pants, and I also don't have to pay someone $30 to sew up the pants. It's a pretty simple skill. It's not a hard thing to do, to learn to do, but then again, I wouldn't know because I don't know how to do it. But I think it's a lovely thing that I don't have to be, or we as a couple don't have to be dependent on you know, the outsourcing of this sort of labor. Just because I've been reading Poland, the classic examples are gardening, even just a little bit, growing your own herbs, knowing just a little bit about how to cultivate food, you know, knowing a little bit extra about how to cut up meat, you know. Are we just buying the pre-cut meat, or could we step it up a level and buy a whole chook and learn, it's not that hard, to cut it up into pieces, butcher it, separate it. It's a cheaper step. We're one step closer to its original form, you know. And so although we don't have to throw ourselves into hyper independence, you know, where we're alone in a cabin in the woods, I think it's a lovely thing to take steps towards independence, understanding how things work. I think it builds a reverence for, you know, we're in the example of food, but it could work for clothes or, I mean, for writing. Like I have written regularly, and it gives me a whole other perspective on the beauty of good literature, of a really readable essay. I know how hard that is to make. It's really hard. You can read my work at Kind Regards on Substack, and yeah, I spent, you know, 30 straight weeks writing every day, and that's as good as they got. It's not that great. It's good, but it's not that good. And so any skill that we learn, that we dabble in, any way that we sort of develop our independence gives us this newfound appreciation for what previously we just thought of as a product. You know, a piece of journalism is just a thing that we read. Who cares? It just appears. I click on the thing, there it is. I read it, I consume it, I give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, I chuck it away, instead of it being, yeah, I guess much more significant. In the same way, the more intimate we are with the process of growing food, the more appreciative I believe we will become when we come to a really great meal. In terms of cooking, really 10 out of 10 cooking is just, there's nothing better than that in my mind. I get so excited, I thank chefs, and I'm so pumped on food because of my experience in kitchens. You know, very limited experience. I don't want to make it sound like I'm really great or anything, but, you know, just a little bit of experience in how hard it is to run a commercial kitchen, how hard it is to even just do a single shift in one. You know, when you get a meal and there's so much love and care in there, and they've obviously tasted everything all the way through and crafted this beautiful meal, yeah, it's really a big deal. It's not just a product to be consumed. It's not just an experience to be had. It's a really deep connection with the work and the labor involved. And so I suppose the question is, where are we all at? How much of these things are we attached to? How shallow is our involvement with, you know, fashion or food or, you know, writing, making videos, whatever the thing is that we're consuming? How intimately do we know this process? If we knew it more and were more capable, would that enhance our enjoyment of the thing when we consume it, and B, enhance our independence from the corporations that have sought to keep us over here doing our very specialized thing, right? I could make way more money doing something other than this, and I could leave the video making, you know, to the professionals, right? Instead of going home and cooking for 2 hours, I should just work an extra hour, and that amount of money will be more than the amount of money that I save through cooking, right? That's the corporate sort of mindset. This is the mentality of specialization. How deep in that are we? Do we want to push ourselves away from that, work less, become more independent as people, and appreciate these things more? I think the answer is a pretty resounding yeah. But I suppose that's for us all to reflect on. Yeah, this is kind regards. Thanks for watching. I hope this finds you well. Yeah, thanks very much.